A charming smile hid a monster's rage, leaving a trail of destruction across South Carolina. What if the person you trusted most was capable of unimaginable evil? In South Carolina, a man named Stephen Stanko captivated those around him with his charm, a facade that masked a dark and violent secret. This is a story about deception, a brutal rampage, and the chilling realization that danger can hide in plain sight. There's one detail in his story that most people miss, a crucial element that helps us understand how such a tragedy could unfold. Stephen Stanko's life was not one of overt malice, at least not initially. He presented himself as a regular guy, someone you might pass on the street without a second thought. But beneath this ordinary exterior lay a disturbing capacity for violence and manipulation. In 2005, this duality erupted into a series of horrific events that would shock the state. How does a person go from seemingly normal to a perpetrator of such extreme violence? The violence escalated rapidly. 2 lives were lost, and a young teenager was left fighting for her life. The details of these attacks are harrowing, painting a grim picture of Stanko's descent. Investigators were faced with a daunting task, piecing together the events and understanding the mind of a killer. What drove Stanko to commit these acts, and were there signs that could have prevented the tragedy? The manhunt for Stanko was intense. Law enforcement agencies worked tirelessly, utilizing every piece of evidence available. From ATM surveillance footage to witness accounts, they were determined to bring him to justice. This pursuit highlights the dedication of those tasked with protecting the public. But what was the critical piece of evidence that finally led to his capture? The legal proceedings that followed were just as dramatic. Christina Ling, the teenage survivor, showed incredible bravery by testifying against her attacker. The defense attempted to use an insanity plea, a common tactic in cases involving extreme violence. This raises questions about criminal responsibility and the complexities of the justice system. How did the courts grapple with the evidence in Stanko's defense? The story of Stephen Stanko serves as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that can exist within our communities. It underscores the importance of recognizing warning signs, both in individuals and in situations. The case also speaks to the resilience of survivors and the relentless pursuit of justice. Understanding these cases is crucial for anyone interested in criminal psychology and the dark side of human nature. The first layer is context. Every documentary story begins before the moment people remember. There is a setting, a chain of decisions, and a public reaction that shapes how the event is understood. In the case of Stephen Stanko's crimes, the important thing is not only what happened, but why the surrounding details made people pay attention. That is where the story begins to move from a simple summary into something more useful. It asks us to look at timing, location, pressure, and the way one moment can represent a much larger pattern. The second layer is what people often misunderstand. A single image or short clip can feel complete, but it usually leaves out the forces around it. Viewers see the result, not the build-up. They see the most dramatic frame, not the quiet details that made it possible. That gap matters because it changes the meaning of the story. When we examine Stephen Stanko's crimes carefully, we are not just asking what is visible. We are asking what is missing from the first impression. Then comes the turning point. This is where the story stops being only about one scene and starts pointing to a bigger question. Why did this particular moment stand out? Why did people share it, debate it, or return to it later? The answer is usually not one simple fact. It is a combination of emotion, uncertainty, and recognition. People respond when a story feels specific, but also familiar enough to connect to something they already care about. Another important detail is the human tendency to look for a clean conclusion. We want a final answer, a clear lesson, and a single explanation that ties every loose end together. But strong documentary stories often resist that. They leave us with evidence, competing interpretations, and a reminder that public understanding is always incomplete. That does not make the story weaker. It makes it more honest. So what value can we take from Stephen Stanko's crimes? The value is not just the event itself. It is the pattern around it. It shows how quickly attention forms, how easily context disappears, and how important it is to ask better questions before accepting the easiest version of a story. That is why stories like this continue to matter after the first wave of attention fades. In the end, Stephen Stanko's Crimes remains worth examining because it sits between fact and interpretation. We can see enough to understand why it matters, but not always enough to close the case completely. And that open space is where documentary storytelling becomes powerful. It does not tell us what to think. It gives us a clearer way to look. Stephen Stanko's chilling crimes left an indelible mark on South Carolina. His story is a complex tapestry of deception, violence, and the eventual triumph of justice. Remember this: the most dangerous monsters often wear the most ordinary faces. If you're fascinated by true crime and want more in-depth breakdowns of gripping cases, hit that subscribe button. We uncover the stories you need to know.